Okay, hello and welcome to the A.D.H.Deep-Dive, the show that's not about ADHD but is filled with proof it exists. My name is David J. Mund. Gosh, how do I even fucking start this thing? Because I'm very upset heading into this. I'm also going to fix this light as we start the podcast. Do we take it all the way back to 2001? I think let's do that. It's 2001, right? I'm in the first grade, and I'm in my class, and then all of a sudden, we are taken as a group to the music class. We're going to go into, I think at the time it was, what was her name? Miss Heatheis? It was either Miss Heatheis or Miss Crumb, I can't remember. The music classroom, where you learn to play the recorder and a little bit of like, whatever, not marimba, but like child's marimba. And we're all being distracted with like things to play with and toys and musical things, and we're allowed to just kind of do whatever we want. And I remember it being kind of like unexpected, right? Like again, I'm just a child, so I don't 100% know why this is happening, but I'm like hyped about the fact that I get to play with toys. And in comes one of those little like roller TV things. Or maybe no. Okay, here's how I remember. I basically remember a bunch of other students coming in. People that weren't from my class. So people I've seen in the hallways, but like we've all got our own teachers. And at this time, middle school and high school were not intersecting. So like, it's elementary school. It's not middle school or high school. So we're not intersecting. So I don't get to see these kids often. I just see them on the playground. So I know that they exist. And then I see kids from other grades come in there. And I'm like, well, why are we all in here? What's going on? I think school just got started. Like it was only a couple weeks in, or like maybe school started in August. Either way, it was very early on in the year. And I'm sure you all know where I'm going with this, but I'm just trying to set the scene a little bit. And I remember seeing a bunch of teachers like scared. I picked up on that sort of body language as they're watching the television, but they're all huddled around the television. I can't remember if it's one of the ones that was like up high in the corner or if it was one of those roll-in television carts. It was probably the one that was up high, because the ones that rolled in weren't connected to like cable. The ones that were up high were the ones that were connected. The ones that rolled in were like, we're watching Bill Nye today. It's a tape that we've been given. And obviously, okay, look, enough of this fucking hyperbole storytelling nonsense. This is 9/11. I remember seeing one of the teachers crying and burying her head in her hands. And I think some of the kids like started asking about what was going on, and we were told not to worry about it and to not talk to the teachers. And that's all I really remember about that moment. According to my parents' perspective and other parents that I've talked to from of kids my age, obviously the towers had been hit. I don't know at what point it was like common, not because like the first tower gets hit and everybody's like, oh, what the hell just happened? How deeply tragic. Then the second tower gets hit and everybody's aware that we're now under attack. And parents were like, do I go collect my kid from school? Like, who knows how long this is going to last? Who knows if it's going to be anything more than this? Obviously, we find out that there were other planes, but that they didn't crash into the towers or any other major metropolitan areas. There was the Pentagon crash or whatever, and I'm not even getting into the whole conspiracy of it all, because there are plenty of things to talk about conspiracy-wise that I'm just not informed about, right? I mean, I'm informed, but not well enough to like riff on them. And I don't even necessarily know if I believe that it was a conspiracy of like, we the United States are going to like perpetrate this attack against ourselves so that we can justify a war. Maybe we'll get into the other possible players. But the main point is that was my first recognition of like what war is, or what like bad guys in the real world do. Then, of course, for the rest of my my tenure in school, it was us in the Middle East. It was us against the radical Islamic terrorists, which certainly existed. To be clear, like I'm not trying to dismiss the truth that they're out there. I believe that there are radical religious fundamentalists in all religions, and that one is not necessarily worse than the other. But the whole propaganda machine, especially when I'm in school, is that like we are at war in the Middle East against radical Islamic terrorists. And we've been in the fucking Middle East, and I know this goes long before I was in school. We've been in the Middle East since then. We have not gotten out. Yes, technically we pulled out of the Iraq war. We officially pulled our troops out of Iraq, our combat troops out of Iraq during the Biden presidency. Something that people had been talking about doing, again, since I was a kid. And then finally Joe Biden does it, and for a multitude of reasons, it's one of the most unpopular things that he did as a president. That was when his approval rating took an absolute hit. All of the machines were against him. Right, left, media. Everyone was pissed at Joe Biden for pulling us out of Iraq. Was it done as tactfully as it could have been done? Probably not. I know that we abandoned a bunch of our assets, a bunch of our planes and our tanks and our weapons and stuff. And then we put it right in the hands of the people that we claimed to have been fighting for that long. But technically, something that was seen as a popular decision was the start of him becoming wildly unpopular for whatever reason. Just to be clear, everything I say from here out is likely to be outdated and old news by the time that you hear this episode. Information is going to change. Developments are going to happen in a way that, man, we are on a rocket ship to escalation. But as of now, Sunday morning, I guess it's Sunday at noon, Sunday, June 22nd, 2025, last night, the United States bombed 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities. There are so many different ways to talk about this. Knowing full well that I am not a military analyst or expert, I'm just a dude who watches the news a little bit too much. For years, Israel has been telling us, and apparently others beyond just Israel have been telling us that Iran is on a fast track to building a nuclear weapon. Something that our own Defense Department, something that our own whatever role Tulsi Gabbard plays right now in the Trump administration, as of 3 weeks ago said, is not happening. They're not building a nuclear weapon. They're not close to building a nuclear weapon. Under the Barack Obama administration, Iran got into a deal with the United States called the Iran nuclear deal. I think it was the IJCPOA? I can't remember. Some sort of a nuclear deal where we said that we weren't protecting Iran, but that we would not get involved militarily with them as long as they stopped attempting to build a nuclear weapon. They could get up to X percentage of enrichment of uranium so that they could start working towards nuclear power, but not a nuclear weapon, right? That was part of the treaty, is that we will have our boots on the ground. Not boots on the ground, but we'll have our scientists, our diplomats, our whatever, our people in there to make sure that you are not doing more than is permitted, because you, Iran, a state sponsor of terror, cannot have a nuclear weapon. This was seen as a success, right? If the goal is for Iran not to have a nuclear weapon, the only way to ensure that is to have people from the United States, scientists or otherwise, there to ensure that it's not happening. In the first Trump administration, he pulls us out of the Iran nuclear deal. I think the justification is we shouldn't be giving Iran money, or we should, Iran can't be trusted, so if we allow them to build any sort of nuclear facility, then they're going to turn that into a bomb, so we get out of the deal. Joe Biden does not get us back into the Iran nuclear deal. Now, in Trump 2.0, he and others are declaring, and especially Benjamin Netanyahu, are declaring that Iran is closer than ever to building a nuclear weapon and that we have to destroy their nuclear facilities. Well, whose fucking fault is it that they're that close? The people who pulled us out of the Iran nuclear deal. There's so many ways that we could go about talking about this in a way that I don't feel as informed about to like talk about the, you know, I'm not as clued in on Israeli or Iranian conflict from decades past. I'm only familiar with what has taken place during my lifetime. And I hope that you can understand my perspective in that I want to absolutely rail in on Benjamin Netanyahu and the government of Israel. But we're in a really tricky era right now where if I criticize the government of Israel or Benjamin Netanyahu, that can be seen as anti-Semitic. That is Jew hate. And that's so fucked up that I feel nervous to speak my own mind about a foreign government that I disagree with because I'm going to be labeled anti-Semitic. That like I literally have to censor myself on my own fucking platform where I discuss the things I feel and think and observe. I'm being told not to trust what I see, not to believe what I hear, not to speak my mind out of fear of censorship. And look, am I going to go to prison if I criticize the government of Iran or of Israel? Probably not. And I don't mean to like hyperbolize here because obviously I've talked about this plenty of times on the podcast. There was so much to be pissed off at Donald Trump about in his first term, and there's going to be plenty of stuff to be pissed at him about in his second term. Plenty of stuff to be pissed at him about in between his two terms. But there is a thing called Trump derangement syndrome, where every single thing he says or does, no matter how big, no matter how small, people take the fucking bait and freak out. Which my perception of his presidency, his existence as a public figure for my lifetime at this point, is the point. He wants you to freak out. He wants you to make a big deal out of every little thing that he does. Because the second he does something after this, we're going to focus our attention on that. And we'll get away from the first thing that he did, which is the whole point of billionaires and fucking people in power starting these goddamn wars in the first place. The whole post George Bush era was George Bush started the conspiracy. Even if it's not George Bush did 9/11, which is a fun one to entertain, it's fucked up and horrible to think about why millions of people are willing to believe that our own president faked a terrorist attack against us to start a war in the Middle East. I don't know that I would say that George Bush did 9/11. I don't know. I think that's more of an incompetence thing than an intentional like conspiracy. But the whole thing is like politicians start wars to distract from their own crimes. We are now talking about a war in Iran, which is not just a war in Iran. Like that is grounds. This is the whole hyperbole thing. I'm not trying to immediately say that we are headed into World War III, but this is kind of how that shit gets started. What are we not talking about now? We're not talking about Elon Musk. We're not talking about Doge. We're not talking about the tariffs. We're not talking about the tax breaks that are on their way for the billionaire class. We're not talking about the Medicare and Medicaid cuts that are on their way for the middle class and lower class. We're not talking about all the other billions of things that he's done. We're not talking about the ICE raids. We're not talking about him sending in the National Guard. We're not talking about him openly and deliberately talking about overthrowing Democratic governors in democratically elected races. We're not talking about him coming after American citizens. We're not talking about him using the military on his own citizens. We're talking about war. And if you can propagandize people enough to think that war is a good thing, and I'm doing it for you, we can't let Iran have a nuclear bomb. We can't let a state sponsor of terror in the Middle East have a nuclear bomb. A country that I'm sure, yes, is doing absolutely horrific thing to their people and people in the Middle East and have propagated terrorist attacks all throughout the globe. Iran, as a state actor, does really horrible, horrific stuff. But we're not talking about all the other shit that he's done to you specifically. When you wake up in the morning, do you think about how Iran has made food unaffordable? Are you talking about how Iran has sicked the National Guard after its own citizens? Are you talking about how Iran has made gas prices go through the roof? Something that is definitely going to happen now. I'm just saying, like, do you wake up and the things that you think about, whether it's how you're going to feed your food or feed your family, whether it's how you're going to get to work, whether it's how you're going to pay your bills, whether it's how you're going to survive, do you wake up and think about how Iran did that to you? No. Both things can be true at the same time, that Iran cannot be permitted a nuclear weapon. And there are more important things to think about domestically than getting involved in another forever war in the Middle East because Benjamin Netanyahu encouraged us to get into it. Benjamin Netanyahu told us that if we took out Saddam Hussein, it would cause massive positive reverberating effects throughout the Middle East. And that we could get in and out and then we're done. Does anybody remember the mission accomplished banner behind George Bush when we did that limited strike in Iraq? We did a strike in Iraq that we say, this is it. We're just getting in, we're getting out, we're destroying some of their military capabilities, and then we're out. Mission accomplished. Does a government or a people, if somebody, just like 9/11, if somebody struck the United States right now or struck our military capabilities elsewhere, do you think we're just going to sit down and let that happen? Or do you think that we're going to retaliate? We're going to fucking retaliate. And like, Iran has two options now. They sit down and do nothing, and they don't respond, and then their own government risks being overthrown by pissed off civilians who are afraid of being struck in their homes, or they retaliate. And if you're a scared leader, politician, which I'm sure the Iranian government is now at this point, well, if the only option for me to stay in power is to go to war, I'm going to do it. And that's what they're going to do. We can't just expect that we get to bomb places and then fly out and say, now is the time for peace. Did we need to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon? Definitely. Let me rephrase. Does Iran need to be stopped from having a nuclear weapon? Definitely. Shouldn't Israel as well? Shouldn't Russia? Shouldn't the United States? Shouldn't China? Shouldn't all these places in the world be talking about how we can't have nuclear weapons anymore? I understand that it's way more complicated than that, and like, you know, they say that like, well, if you have a nuclear weapon, then people are less likely to fuck with you. Look at India and Pakistan. They're fighting. We're sending weapons to Ukraine to fight against Russia, who has nuclear weapons, that we are now complicit in. We have dragged this thing out longer than it needed to go. Had we gotten into peace talks at the beginning, we had a stronger hand. We could have stopped Russia from taking as much, whatever. I can't even get into fucking Russian politics. I understand that less than the Middle East. Again, I don't know what I'm talking about beyond the fact that I am stressed the fuck out that we are now about to get into another war in the Middle East, except Iran is 10 times bigger than Iraq, has way stronger military capabilities than Iraq. And we got into Iraq and Afghanistan, and that took us 20 fucking years. And then from there, there's Libya, there's Syria, there's the Assad regime, there's Saddam Hussein, there is Osama bin Laden, there is Gaddafi. There's all these horrific overthrows of government that have led to civil wars in the Middle East that have made it less safe because we got in to defend Israel. Where do I even fucking go from here? There's so much to talk about in that, like, yes, there are scary people out there who need to be stopped. And yes, sometimes the term peace through strength is appropriate. But so many of the people who voted for Donald Trump, naively or otherwise, I might even give them the benefit of the doubt, said that I gotta elect this guy because look at how much has started under Joe Biden. Which is true. The Russia-Ukraine conflict, Israel invading Gaza, all of these things, of course, have a long and storied history before the Joe Biden administration. Russia has been fighting over the territory of the former Soviet Union, whatever, since the fucking 80s. Israel and Gaza have been duking it out for fucking ever. Not just Gaza, but Palestinians and a lot of the Islamic republics in the Middle East, the Islamic states in the Middle East. But that's a big thing that I really want to get into as well that I'm not as well versed about, is the fact that this is mostly all over a fucking holy war. There are end times people right now that are like, we have to defend the nation of Israel because I am called to do it by God. And how do you argue with these people? How do you rationalize with a person that thinks that this is part of a biblical prophecy that they have to fulfill? Let alone the fact that, they're, whatever, there's the quote that in the Bible that's those who defend Israel will be blessed and those who seek to destroy it will be cursed and whatever. That Israel is not the same Israel as right now, let alone the fact that it doesn't say that you need to support the nation of Israel. I could give some credence to the fact that it's yes, we should be defending Israel, in that we should be defending all countries and all people. If you think that it's a holy land, more power to you. But we should be defending all people. And who makes Israelis less safe than anyone else? The government of Israel. And you'll have pushback here if you're ever going to make this argument out in public, that it's well, do you believe, there's two different arguments. Do you believe that Israel has the right to exist, or do you believe that Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish nation? I'm for the former. Does Israel have a right to exist? Yes. So does Palestine. Does Israel have the right to exist as a Jewish nation? I don't feel super comfortable agreeing to that. Just like I don't feel comfortable agreeing to the fact that America should be a Christian nation, or that Iran should be an Islamic nation, or that, India should be a Hindu nation. There should be no exclusion of people based on religion, because they're all wrong and they're all fucked up. And it is literal ethnic cleansing when you say that this state belongs to Jews or this state belongs to Muslims. Just like it was fucked up in America when this restaurant was whites only, or that this drinking fountain was whites only. Excluding people by their race, creed, color, religion, whatever, is fucked up and wrong. And you make it less safe for everyone when you start to push people out because of what they believe. I believe in the separation of church and state. I believe in the right of religion. You should be allowed to believe whatever you want. But how do you argue with people who believe something so fundamentally? Because for me, I'm you have the right to exist. You have the right to believe what you want to believe. That's fine. Just keep it out of my politics. But in their mind, everything should be dictated by their religion. And me disagreeing with that is of the devil. You can't argue with that. You literally cannot argue with that. There is no argument that penetrates that conclusion, because it is fundamentalism. The religion is the end, not the starting point of the conversation. It will always end back with, because God. And you can't debate that. And so I feel so fucking helpless when we're now getting involved in another fucking war. This one more specifically because of the holy war end times nonsensical people in the Israeli government and the United States government. And how do we stop it? We can't. I don't know. I don't see a way out of this. Okay, so to be super clear here, I want to reiterate the fact that I don't know what I'm talking about, right? I'm not a military analyst. I'm not an expert on Middle Eastern affairs. I'm not an expert on global politics. I'm not even an expert on American politics. I'm just a dude who's pissed off, whose entire life has been under the guise of a forever war in the Middle East. And I'm just fucking sick of it. And you feel helpless after a long time. And like, thank God, obviously, I'm not in a place that is actively being bombed. But how long is that sustainable? How long can America be safe from this kind of stuff? Because one of the biggest things that we've talked about through our entire nation's history is the fact that we are surrounded by oceans, which is great. It's going to be very hard to have boots on the ground physically invading the United States. But wars are fought with bombs and drones now. Missiles that fly through the fucking sky. And yes, we've got defense capabilities where we can shoot down drones and missiles out of the sky with our own bombs. But how long is that sustainable? Especially a combined, coordinated fight. That's one of the biggest things that's stressing me out about this whole thing is okay, let's say, yes, mission accomplished. We got in, we bombed this place, and Iran can't bomb us anymore. Iran has allies. And the reason that it was such a prolonged, deep, scary thing in the Middle East after 9/11 is because of NATO treaties. If there's an attack on one of us, it's declared as an attack on all of us. So you got France, you got Germany, you got the UK, you got all our other European allies going into the Middle East to fight a war with and for us. Mutual defense treaties or whatever. And we'd do the same thing if somebody invaded a NATO territory. Iran has partners. Russia is Iran's partner. And China is Russia's partner. You can see how this could become a global conflict. Whether it's World War III in the way that we declare that it always will be or not, I don't know. It's possible. It's not unlikely that other people get involved, that other countries get involved. And then once there is an attack on the homeland or in America, are our allies going to get involved? And then all these allies are involved, and then it is World War III. And does that mean that everybody's going to be firing nuclear missiles at each other? I don't know. But my understanding is that there's plenty of nations, plenty of governments in the world that if they are directly threatened, where if it's we no longer have any options, we've been invaded, everything is kicking off, there's no defense left, that's when they fire the nuclear missiles. It's not as a first. Many of these nations have I'm not going to fire the first nuclear missile. But if they're about to be overthrown, or the government is about to collapse, or the nation is about to collapse, that's how that happens. It's we've got nothing left to give, so we may as well, as a last dying gasp, push the button. And then if that hits, then we push our button. And then everybody pushes their button, and it's over. You don't want to live in a world with nuclear fallout. You want to be at the fucking center of that impact. Because a world after nuclear war is it's not the Stone Ages. It's not the Dark Ages. It's there's nothing. We've got nothing. We start from the ground up. Not just as democracies and nation states and societies. It is literally the apocalypse. And when you've got so many countries who are operating their foreign policy based on end times biblical prophecies, the end times are what they are expecting. This is part of the fulfillment of their entire belief structure. This is supposed to happen because as soon as this is over, Christ comes back, right? As a person who doesn't believe, it's really interesting to think that the one thing I might believe is that this guy's the fucking Antichrist. And if you start from this guy's the Antichrist, well then maybe the rest of it is true. God. You've got people saying, and you got Trump afterwards saying that, like, you know, we're so grateful to God. You've got defense secretary, or I can't remember it, defense secretary. I can't remember which one Tulsi Gabbard is, which one Pete Hegseth is, but the dude who now works for the administration in a defense capacity from Fox News, Pete Hegseth. I can't remember. I think he's the defense secretary, and then, I think Tulsi Gabbard is director of Homeland Security. I can't remember. Either way, he's, for half of his press conference, talking about how we give glory to God for this. And then you've got everybody repeating the talking point that, like, no other country on earth could have done this. I understand that all administrations have talking points that they repeat. You want to get the message, you work for the president, even though that's not true, you work for the fucking American people. But in this capacity, if you're part of the administration, you work for the president, the commander-in-chief, or whatever, so you have to, like, bolster his message, and if you don't want to be a part of bolstering that message, then you resign, and then you speak out, or whatever. But you hear everybody, like, using his language, right? Like, no other nation on earth could have made this happen. We bombed them bigger than anybody's ever been bombed before, with these big, beautiful bombs. Like, we're running out of independent thought. Everyone is just parroting this guy. And, you know, are there some Republicans and conservatives and people on the right who are upset about this? Yes, certainly. And I'm with you, brother. I never believed him when he said that he was not for more war, that he was going to establish peace, or that he was going to get us out of all of these wars. I always believed that he was going to do something like this. But for the people who actually believed him, I am sorry that you were duped. But do you get it now? This guy isn't for peace. He's for him. Whatever makes him look better. And as I talked about earlier, this is a distraction from the shit he's been doing already. In the same way, the Benjamin Netanyahu got involved in all this shit because he's under investigation. I don't know if it's for tax crimes or whatever. He's committed plenty of, like, domestic crimes in his own country that he was being investigated for, that as soon as the investigation was about to take place and go to actual court, that's when he started the invasion of Gaza. And now we can't do this right now because, I mean, I'm the commander-in-chief and I've got to make sure that we can get through this thing. I'm a leader. I'm a nation's leader. And now what are we talking? Are we talking about Benjamin Netanyahu getting arrested? Are we talking about Benjamin Netanyahu paying the price of his own crimes domestically? We're not even talking about, we're not even talking about Gaza anymore. Gaza's done. That's over. He bombed the shit out of them. They got nothing left. Now they're about to roll in and invade it and take it. And now they need it because they need more, like, physical land because they're about to get their fucking country bombed to shit. And so that justifies the means to their end again, which is reclaiming the fucking homeland to fulfill the prophecy. This is all, the root of this shit is all fucking insane. But you know what? Mission successful, right? We did it. We bombed them. We bombed their nuclear facilities. And now they what? Now they're never going to try to build a nuclear bomb? No, they're going to try to build a nuclear bomb even faster now because we've had these talks with them to try and get them into an agreement where they don't build a nuclear bomb so that they can, we're going to be in there. We're going to make sure that you don't do it. We're going to make sure that you stay safe because the only thing that we want is peace. We just don't want you to have a nuclear bomb. Just kidding. We're going to bomb the fuck out of you. And now we're going to tell you to come back to the table. No, now they're going to try to build a nuclear bomb so much faster than they tried to before. Because that might be the only thing that stops us from doing this all over again. If they actually have it, if our goal was actually to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, we just made it a lot more unlikely that they do. A lot more unlikely that they don't. Because now you've got fucking crazy conversations, like Russia saying, like, well, we think, even though this is totally fucked up from their perspective, like, for Russia, or even just specifically Vladimir Putin to say, like, you know, he said something along the lines of, like, this is like whatever, this is a crime against humanity or whatever. It violates international law. Motherfucker, you're one to talk. But anyways, he's saying all that stuff and now saying, like, well, in order to make sure that none of this kind of stuff happens again, like, maybe we'll give Iran nuclear weapons so that they can, purely defensively, right? That's what they're saying. Russia or whatever other Iran's allies in the Middle East or around the globe that have nuclear weapons are like, we should probably give them nuclear weapons defensively. Just so... Because again, that is the argument, is if you have nukes, people are less likely to attack you. Well, we just made it way more likely that they get one in the near-term future. And in order to ensure that that does not happen, what are we going to do? We're going to bomb them even more. We're going to get boots on the ground. We're going to have a coordinated strike effort with then an actual probably invasion of Iran. They're going to try to topple the regime, which is exactly what we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. Regime change wars. Well, my understanding now is that Iran's already got like a full list of people that are ready to take over if, I think, what is his name? The Ayatollah, whatever, the supreme leader of Iran, something Maney. Anyways, if he dies, there's a full list of people ready to continue his mission. Regime changes don't work. You overthrow, it's just like America, right? If somebody kills Donald Trump today, J.D. Vance becomes the president. J.D. Vance is right in line with Donald Trump's mission. That's just how it works everywhere else. You overthrow a leader, another leader who's probably even more fundamentalist takes over. Because now they're responsive. You killed our leader. Now we're coming for you. We've made it way more unsafe. Again, if the goal is to defend Israel or keep Israel safe, we've made it way more unsafe for the people in Israel. Americans, Jews, secular and religious Jews. Like, it is way more unsafe in the Middle East today than it was yesterday. And we better hope that this was it, that Iran is actually cowardly and goes, okay, all right, fine, you got us, we're done. But they have already said as of this morning that, like, you better watch your backs. Because now, if they're on the back foot, can Iran one-on-one win a war with the United States? No, they can't. But in the same way that the entire initial war on terror took place, you don't need to fight a war with bombs and boots on the ground. You send someone in with a bomb strapped to their chest to terrorize people. And they're going to do that. It's going to be less safe here, too. Because now you've got, again, more religious fundamentalists that believe that their religion is being prosecuted in a way that, like, they have to defend the motherland by killing innocent civilians because you did it to us, now we're going to do it to you. Is it right? Fuck no. They have no justification for doing that. Any type, whether it's domestic or foreign, religious or secular terrorism is fucked up and it's disturbing and it needs to end. But this is how that shit starts. This is the escalatory ladder. And you kill us, we kill you back. We kill you back, you kill us back. Over and over and over again. Well, you think that, now that it's gotten tough, I need to get my buddy involved. Now it's a full-out world war. And who launches the first nuke? Actually, if I had to guess, probably us. We probably do it first. Because there is now a justification. In the same way that we did it in Japan. It's like, the argument was, the first one is for us. Or the first one was for Japan, the next one was for everybody else. It's like, yes, we've got it. There we go. We're going to use it as a weapon. The second one was to remind everybody else, we've got more, and we'll do it to you too. And now when you've got a fucking insane person like Donald Trump and all the other people in his administration who literally came from Fox News, they're ready, dude. They're ready to distract from their own crimes. They're ready to bomb, to show bravado. Peace through strength, right? Well, we'll talk about that when we're all fucking glass. And I think, again, just even if it's just peaceful, right? Even if it's over from here on out, there's no more bombs or whatever. Everything is about to get more expensive. It's not just, we get so much oil from the Middle East that now, I think, again, I'm not an expert on Middle East politics or just geography in general. But my understanding is there's this thing called the Strait of Hormuz, I think, where I think it's like 25 or 40% of oil from the Middle East gets to us. Iran controls that. They've closed it. So oil is now going to be more expensive because we need to get it elsewhere. And, oh man, we could pivot this into a whole thing about billionaires. Not only is gas at the pump going to get more expensive, but gas is in everything. So, like, your energy bill is going to get more expensive. And if your energy bill is more expensive, so is the energy bill at the grocery store or the Amazon warehouse. And in order to offset those costs, they got to raise the price on everything. So everything gets more expensive. And who benefits? The people at the top. The people who own domestic supplies of oil. Just like when this fucking tariffs thing happened or when inflation happened. When it cools, do they lower the prices back down? No, the prices stay up. It gets easier for the people at the top who now benefit more and more. In the same way that politicians benefit from war because it keeps them in power, billionaires benefit from war because they get to raise the fucking prices on everything. And then when the war's over, does everything get cheaper? No. They keep the prices up. They keep their profits up. And then they turn that money into a fucking fallout shelter that they get to go to. Do you have a bunker? No, but at least eggs are $3 now, right? Well, let's look at the price of eggs in fucking 3 weeks. Or the price of gas at the pump. You're going to see $4 or $5 gas again. Easily. I got nothing left to give. I think that's it. My dog is now dreaming loudly. He's probably dreaming that he's boots on the ground now. See what you've done? You've sent my dog to fight a war in the Middle East. Thanks for that. We didn't even get into the fucking draft, dude. Do I think it's likely that I would be drafted into the military at this point? No, probably not. I'm 31. A little out of shape. My bones are sore. But in a World War III type scenario where we're losing hundreds, if not thousands of soldiers by the day, do I think I'm going to be put into a combat zone? No, probably not. But like there's all these like positions administratively that need to be filled. And that's what drafts kind of do. You get the reserves up, they go in and fight, and then you fill the positions that they had home domestically. Anyways, I don't even want to get into the draft because I don't know that it's likely. I don't even know that escalation is gonna happen. It's likely though. Anyways, I don't even really have anything to announce at this point. We don't have any shows coming up. I guess we do in July, but we'll talk about that on the next episode. This is a quick 180, right? I'm just talking about all this shit and then I'm getting out of here. Just like us. I'm going to go in, I'm going to bomb you with information, and then I'm just going to get out. Mission accomplished. There's no fallout from this. There'll be no consequences on your or my mental health if I just get in here, complain about all this shit, and then leave. So I guess thank you for listening to the A.D.H. Deep Dive, the show that's not about ADHD, but is filled with proof it exists. My name is David J. Mund. God. And I'm just going to say it. Yes, I'm making a political point now. We could have had Bernie. Would the world be perfect? No. Would there still be wars elsewhere? Definitely. Would Bernie bring about world peace? Absolutely not. But I wouldn't be like afraid that there's a psychopath in the Oval Office. Ugh. There's so much that I could talk about that I would love if Bernie were president at this point. But I mean, at this point, even if he ran this time around, I probably would not vote for him because he's too old. All these leaders are too old. They're too baked into their fundamentalism. You can't change their minds. You need a new generation of leadership that isn't fueled by religious fervor and psychopathic fundamentalism. Well, that was an entire podcast of me spouting off, not knowing exactly what I'm talking about, but being really bummed. I'm just bummed that, again, At best, we now have to worry about domestic retaliation, about a religious war. This is a holy war. And I don't want to fight it, dude. I want nothing to do with it. But we're here now. And I don't know how we turn back. And everything, again, that I've said today could be completely outdated by the time that you're listening to this. Iran probably could have struck back, hit a military base. And if they hit an American base, we are at war. Which is fucked up because, like, Congress is the only one that can declare war. A president can't unilaterally say we're at war. A president can have, like, limited strikes and whatever. But, like, a president also can't declare tariffs on the entire world. But he did. And what are we doing about it? Nothing. We've done nothing about it. And I say we. Like, yeah, okay, sure, yes, there is a lot of, like, reckoning that, like, the American voter has to deal with. But, like, I didn't vote for this shit. I was pissed at the other side. The other side fucked up, and they would have fucked up too, like, going forward. The Kamala Harris administration would have been a disaster. Don't get me wrong. But would it be like this? Probably not. And again, this is where that lesser of two evils thing comes in. I am sick of the lesser of two evils. And the lesser of two evils right now, the greater of two evils right now is World War III. The lesser of two evils right now is just a couple limited strikes on American military bases and a couple thousand American soldiers dying for the cause of some holy war. Whatever. I could go round and round in circles about this fucking insane war, but I'm done. I'm out of here. It's over. Thank you very much for tuning into the A.D.H. Deep Dive, the show that's not about ADHD, but is filled with proof it exists. My name is David J. Mund. Peace the fuck